Hello, I'm your host, Linda Kasonde. I'm a lawyer who spent several years as an advocate for human rights, justice, and the rule of law in my native country, Zambia. This podcast was born out of the need to share women's experiences of leadership and to advocate for more women to take up leadership positions, based on themes in my memoir, Women, Resilience, and the Will to Lead. We cover topics ranging from motherhood to running for office, ambition, and managing the imposter syndrome. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome to episode 1 of season 2. Today we're talking Becoming Women with 2 representatives of Gen Z. Welcome, ladies. Please introduce yourselves.
I'm Basila Sikaulu, a second-year law student at the University of York, and it is a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you, my dear.
My name is Mwaka Machila. I'm 22 years old, and I've just graduated from an economics and business economics degree from the University of Maastricht in the Netherlands.
Fantastic. So both very accomplished women in your own right. So, ladies, I am from Gen X, and my generation upwards are literally perplexed by Gen Z. So tell us a bit about why you think that is, and also whether you think it's fair.
I think it is a byproduct of just growing up in different times, different eras, different societal factors occurring. Gen Z grew up in a time where technology was a big part of our lives, whether through TV, and it has obviously evolved into streaming now, but news, DSTV, whereas in Gen X or millennials, there were a lot of different societal factors, such as whether it was coming through independence or multipartism or apartheid, just different things occurring in the world versus today. And I think that influenced the way you not only operate, but like interact and the things you believe in.
Yeah, and I also feel like maybe with us as Gen Z, I feel like we're also maybe not as traditional. I think with us, life has changed so much from when we were like kids to now. Like when I was growing up, we were still having like cassettes. Like I used to have Barney cassettes. And now we went through cassettes, DVDs, TVs, not even that popular anymore. And now we're on streaming, like so much has changed. Like throughout our lifetimes in society and the way it works. And I feel like with us, there's also so much like instant gratification, and there's so much news and there's so much going on to the point where we don't even stick with one thing. We just keep going to the next thing. And I feel like that also is the same with how we function in society. Like I feel like maybe in older generations there was much more like, okay, I'll do this job and I'll climb the ranks and I'll maybe stay there for 10 years and then do another 15 years and something like that. But with us it's more like, okay, if we can't do it now or in 2 years, we're a bit more like we want it more immediately than being able to kind of like stay for the long haul for a lot of things. So yeah, I feel like just the characteristics that define us are just a bit more like different.
But
Okay, go ahead.
yeah, it is fair to be perplexed because obviously you have your understanding of life and we have our understanding of life, and we're Gen Z, but there's another generation behind us called Gen Alpha. And even now at like 20 and 22, we see some of the things they partake in or some of the language they use, and we're already starting to be confused, even though we're not that different or far away in age. So I think it's just a byproduct of the times you grew up in and like just the trends you partake in, just different life periods.
So you've both grown up with technology, but obviously we live in Zambia, and a huge part of our population that is Gen Z don't have access to technology. So can you tell us what you think about how that's going to affect their futures and how you will be interacting with the other Gen Zs in Zambia?
I feel like even if maybe they don't have so much access to technology, the fact that society has still changed the way it has will still like play a role in how we like interact with each other. Because obviously, I don't know, like I said, I feel like still with Gen Z, we're not so traditional, I guess. Like it's like, yeah, we still want to maybe get married or have kids and stuff, but that's not like something that we want to do immediately or as quickly. And with things like that, like maybe a lot of like with my conversation with my friends, we're a lot more like, okay, we want to do a career first, we want to do this, like the marriage and stuff later. And I feel like we'd still be able to relate with people in that sense, because that's not something that necessarily, I think, is fueled by technology in that way, but I think it's just like a generational thing. So I feel like we'd still be able to have those like, I guess like similarities in that sense. And yeah.
Do you think there's a sense that you guys can have it all?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, to an extent. You're kind of like, I don't know, it's like you see so like the way people even earn money now, like the jobs that are available, there's so many ways that you like can earn money. You don't necessarily have to be doing an office job. Nowadays, you don't even really need a degree in a lot of spaces and stuff like that. So I think when you see that and you see, oh, this person has like 20 million followers and they're doing all these things and they're only 19, 20, 21, and they didn't do it through like, oh, going to university and getting a degree and working in this office for 5 years and stuff like that, you do kind of feel like, okay, like that should be possible for me too. So I do think we have a bit more of that.
I think it's also because of social media. Like we just have a lot more awareness of what goes on in the world, and we're open to so many possibilities. And I think because we are aware that there's just so much you can do when the world is so vast and there are so many different types of people, we kind of have this mindset of why not try, or why not do this and this and this. Like it doesn't hurt to try, and you know, it could be very beneficial to do so.
Okay, we were talking earlier about the fact that you guys are the TikTok generation. And you mentioned earlier that that's how you get a lot of your news and information. Mm-hmm. Is there not a drawback in the sense that you only get snippets of things that are discussed in depth? How do you approach that as Gen Z?
I think like with TikTok now, I think that would have been more of the case like when the app was kind of first coming out. But now on TikTok, you can have like 10-minute videos and you can make like playlists, kind of like how you have with YouTube. So if people are talking about certain topics, they'll like have like okay, it is a bit frustrating sometimes, but they'll have like part 1, part 2, and then it's in the playlist. So like even when part 1 finishes, part 2 plays like immediately afterwards, and then it's like another like 10-minute video. So in that sense, you still get to, I guess, engage with things like more in depth.
And people are really good about ensuring that TikTok isn't your only resource. Like even as they talk about these issues, they will point you to other links, other websites, other organizations that you can do more research through, or other stories you can hear there. I think our generation is very good about understanding the bias that comes through just utilizing one platform to get all your news, and they try and ensure that you can kind of go to different sources to get and compile information and form an opinion of your own.
Okay. So you guys are, as the title suggests, becoming women. And could you just tell us what things about your parents' and grandparents' generation you're letting go, and things that you'd like to keep and sort of pass on to the future generations?
I think one thing I'm letting go of is the idea of, I guess, what a woman is supposed to be. I think older generations, it was kind of pushed on them that like as a woman, it is your obligation or your duty to become a wife, to become a mother. Like obviously education was a thing, and you know, my mother went to school, but it wasn't like as important as, you know, having children and becoming like a caretaker. And I think one thing our generation is very good at is understanding that a woman isn't like one-dimensional. There's so many facets to becoming a woman, and yes, becoming a wife and a mother is a privilege and an honor and such a beautiful thing to partake in, but it's not something you have to do either early in your career. It's not something you have to do at all if you don't want to. That there's many other aspects to being a woman than being a wife and a mother. It's not the only thing that can form your identity. And so to explore who you are as an individual and what makes you happy and what fuels your passions outside of that part of womanhood.
Here's to more childless cat ladies.
Yes.
Yeah. And I also I agree with that. And also even just like with gender roles and things like that, like thinking, oh, because you're the girl in the house and you have to cook and stuff like that, or you have to be the one to always offer the guests and prepare the meals and stuff, which is what I think I really appreciated. Like growing up, my mom made sure my brother and I were cooking, like switching every day. And I don't even like cooking, but my brother, like, he's really good at cooking and he really enjoys it. And I'll tell people that. I'll be like, yeah, my brother, like, he cooks more at home and stuff, not me so much. And sometimes people are like, well, that's not how it's supposed to be. And I'm like, well, there's no supposed to. I think, especially something like that, like, it's a life skill. So it's just an important thing to have in general. So I think just, like, moving away from these, like gender roles and thinking, oh, because you're a woman, this is how you should be and stuff. And then not really allowing you to be something else and to go outside the box that other people have put you in. So yeah. And in terms of like what I'll be keeping, I think for me, like with my family and my mom especially, she's really instilled like family, like the importance of family and community. And I think also just growing up in Zambia in general, like lots of African societies are really like what's the opposite of individual? Communal, yes. Collectivist, yes, that's the word. So I think that's really a big thing for me, like the community I've had throughout my life. Like I always say I was literally raised by a village, and I've really appreciated having that in my life, and I'd really like to pass that on, as well as like faith as well. Like it's especially like getting older, you realize the importance of your faith and like having a good relationship with God and how that really like pushes you through life and carries you through like everything. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with what Mwaka said. And yeah, another thing my mother has always instilled in me is the need for me to be independent as a woman, to get my education, to strive for great things, to believe that all is possible for me. And if not, like she likes to say, I'll land amongst the stars, like shoot for the moon and land amongst the stars. Like don't limit yourself. Don't let anyone tell you who you can be or what you can do. Just further yourself, get your education, and become like a strong, independent woman, because you can do it all. Yeah. So that's one thing I continue to take with me. And if I were to have children who were girls, I would hope to instill in them.
So ladies, you've both read my memoir, Women, Resilience, and the Will to Lead. And one of the themes that runs through my book is the struggle for women to rise to their full potential. Do you think there are any barriers currently in your life and in your work that will limit how you show up in the world?
I think maybe more of the problems that I would face are kind of maybe self-inflicted, in the sense that I feel like with men, they're so much more confident in general to kind of like go out there and get what they want and ask for what they want. And then with me, I feel like I'm a bit more shy, I guess, a bit more kind of like, yeah. And I feel like maybe that would be like my thing, because I know like my mom talks a lot about no one's going to do you any favors and you have to go out and get for what you want and ask for what you want.
Closed
and I
mouths
think
don't get fed.
Exactly. So in terms of that, I feel like I need to become better at that, especially because, I don't know, maybe there is a chance that I'll be more overlooked because I'm a woman in certain spaces. So in that sense, I feel like that's like a personal thing. But on a bigger, more like economic scale or like systemic scale, like obviously there are still lots of like hurdles that women still have to like overcome nowadays that I wouldn't want to be like, no, I know it's easier now, I guess, because obviously like the feminist movement has done a lot for that, but they are still there. So I feel like in that sense, like, it's kind of bound to happen, but yeah.
Basila?
Yeah, I agree. I think I tend to suffer from kind of like self-doubt, like I don't believe I deserve to be in these places, even though there's like no evidence pointing towards that. Like even when I received the call to do this, like I don't know if you remember, but I was telling you like, oh yeah, no, I was just really shocked. Like I don't understand why you want to speak to me, like, so kind of just closing myself off to opportunities because I don't believe I'm meant to be there when there's no evidence pointing towards that. But yes, like Mwaka said, there's obviously still a lot of systemic issues within corporations in the world with just how women are treated in regards to how men are treated. Like obviously there's still misogyny, there's still this belief that men are more equipped to do things, or men have this like inert leadership skill, whereas women don't possess that. There's still this belief that like women are meant to be mothers or caretakers and are not necessarily meant to work as hard or be in the office as long. And so those issues still persist, but obviously I'm still in university, so I haven't quite experienced them as yet. I've heard about them. I've obviously like seen videos of it, but I'm yet to experience it. Both Mwaka and I are quite privileged in that we don't kind of deal with some of the issues less fortunate people deal with, especially in like African countries like Zambia, where like traditional values still persist, or there's other barriers like, you know, access to money to send children to school, or, you know, birth control options, and like some girls unfortunately get pregnant at a young age and cannot continue going to school, or some fathers believe that the boy child should be prioritized when it comes to education versus the girl child. Like, we're privileged in that we don't have to deal with those issues, but yes, other issues still persist.
You know, you're very interesting examples, because I know both your parents and wow, I think they've raised you to be confident and independent. So I'm curious, where does this sense of self-doubt come from?
I actually don't know. Like, I don't know. I think it's also just like, as much as like your parents do what they can to raise you the best way they can to make you confident, I think there are also so many other factors that end up like coming in, like the people you hang around with, like the society, and social media. I think also plays such a huge role, because now that you can see how literally everyone is living, there's a lot more room for you to compare yourself to other people and be like, well, I'm not doing as great as her, or I didn't get as good grades, or I'm not doing this, and I'm still only in university. I haven't gotten to do all these deals, or I haven't worked all these jobs, or I'm not making this kind of money yet. So I think in that sense, it does put that like doubt in yourself. And I know like they always say like comparison is the thief of joy. So like it is definitely not helpful when you have so much more access to everybody else's lives to see how everyone else is doing. So I guess maybe like that's just like one of the things. Yeah.
There's definitely like a need to just shut out the noise and like believe that you wouldn't be invited to rooms you don't belong in, and like to take every opportunity for what it is, which is like a way for you to grow and learn. But yeah, I don't know where it comes from, but we're trying to push it away.
It's insidious.
Yeah.
It's creeping in everywhere.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we've also talked about, Gen Z is considered, you've talked about social media and its impact on particularly your generation. Gen Z is often considered to be an anxious generation, and dealing with, or certainly anecdotally, more mental health issues. Tell us about that, how you're experiencing it, and maybe also the impact that COVID had on you and your generation.
I feel like it definitely does contribute to mental health issues for like a lot of reasons. The main thing, I guess, with social media is access. So you can access anything and everything. And obviously when you see so many bad things going on in the news, it does start to affect you, and it does start to make you, it dampens your mood and things like that. And then also with things of like, cyberbullying is now a thing. Like I said earlier just now, like comparing yourself to other people and things like that. And I guess also now the way like social activism also comes onto social media sometimes. Obviously there are a lot of things that are brought on social media that are talked about, and it's good. And then sometimes you do find, depending on how online you are, you do find yourself in certain corners where you're just like, okay, maybe this is too far and stuff like that. And also kind of feeling like, oh, if I say this, like, am I saying something wrong? You become more like afraid to say the wrong thing.
Self-conscious?
Yeah, you become more self-conscious because you don't want to say the wrong thing, but you don't know how this person or that person is going to take something that you say, or how they're going to misconstrue your words, because that happens all the time. So I feel like you kind of find yourself like walking on eggshells, and then now you've said something and you're like, oh my gosh, like I really hope nobody takes that out of context, and then has this whole other idea of who I am that but I'm not really like that, and then it kind of like spirals like that. So I feel like that's I guess, how it kind of contributes.
Thank you for tuning in to Women Resilience and the Will to Lead. I'd like to thank our production team, Keen Kings Media. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and press the subscribe button.